Hey guys, it's Kat and I am back today for another multi-look review of an indie eyeshadow palette. Fancy. I was set this one in PR, so a massive thank you to Glaminatrix Cosmetics, Australian indie brand. I love them. I still, Nearly Natural palette, favorite palette of like the last, since it launched. It's like one of my most used palettes. I love it. Sparkly, it's gorgeous, it's matte, it's grungy, it's twinkly. I love it. So this is their new sort of accompanying palette. So I would consider this to be like the staple. Oh, I didn't do my nails, I forgot. Oh well, I'll do it later. And then we've got a few sort of accompanying palettes that add a vibe. Turn that around the right way. So this one is the Nocturnal palette, my personal fave, beautiful sort of grungy biz going on. And this is the Glamorous palette. My kid has been touching the colors. He loves the purples, but beautiful purples, like royal sort of beautiful colors. This is their newest one in that sort of range, I suppose. And the details are the Into the Night palette is releasing Sunday the 30th of April at 8 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time, or Saturday the 29th of April at 6 PM Eastern Standard Time. So if you're from Australia, it's Sunday morning. If you're from other parts of the world, it's Sunday night. This is their first non-pre-order palette. I know one criticism people have of Glaminatrix Cosmetics is they do pre-order, so have to wait for it. This is their first one that's not going to be pre-order. They do specify though that there will be a general processing time of 7 to 12 business days. So there is still a little bit of wait, but they're going to try to get it out earlier, according to their Instagram post, is what I'm reading it off. But they're sort of giving themselves a bit of time because they are a small indie brand. This palette contains 7 grungy mattes and 5 duochromes, and overall 3 different formulas. Now, what I'm assuming is the duochromes have different formulas. From what I've seen of swatches, looks like there's some sheerer sort of topper ones and some that are more like metallic and intense. It's going to be 85 Australian dollars and 57 US dollars. Sounds like a lot, but you've got 12 shades. They're full-size pans. Multi-chromes are definitely more expensive than other eyeshadows, and I can tell you without even opening this, I really love the formula of their eyeshadows. So I would much prefer to spend $85 than spend $85 on an Urban Decay palette, which is roughly the price of them in Australia. So yeah, for a brand that's not mass produced and that has high quality sort of duochrome pigments, I feel like that's a reasonable price. Even though these aren't pre-order, they are releasing them in batches. So if you miss out on the release of this one and you want it, they say that 3 weeks after they're going to have a restock. So they have sort of small batches because it takes longer to make them. So what I'm doing today is actually going to be applying this palette on the eyes so you can see my first look and my first impressions, what I think about it. I'm going to do swatches as well, so arm swatches, and then I'm going to check back in with a few more looks, probably at least 4 looks. So this is going to stretch over a couple of weeks, but I'll have it up before the release date. So if you're not sure about whether or not you want to buy it, hopefully I will have answered all your questions and queries, and if not, leave them in the comments and I will try to answer any questions. And if I can't answer them, I'll try to ask Glaminatrix. I'll message them on Instagram and I'll try to get back to you. So everything you need to know will hopefully, you'll know before the release date. So the palette comes in this beautiful dark blue packaging. It's like a nice box. It's got the ingredients on the back, which is handy. Vegan, cruelty free, if you're interested. You open it up and the color inside is gorgeous. Just wait for it, look. Ooh, it's like this beautiful metallic cobalt blue, one of my favorite all-time colors of all time, which is why I said all time twice. These are more sort of, there's like a suede effect, a leather effect, and this sort of metallic effect. So they are playing around. It also has a little jewel sort of logo on it this time. So they are playing around, and it's got the gold embossing, whereas the other ones are just sort of, the name is sort of stamped in. It's sort of hard to see on camera, but this one's a bit easier to see. So I love the color of this. I don't need all this. Like I quite like the simplicity of these, but I love the metallic cobalt blue, one of my all-time favorite colors. let's open it up. This does have a little slip that I took out before, a little plastic slip, and these are the shades. It's got a nice mirror in there as per usual. I find this mirror to be actually quite usable. You can hold it up and you can see, like, I can see my full eye area. So, you know, probably not to do your full face of makeup, but definitely your eyes. And you can see there is an interesting mix of shades here. Luckily, I'm wearing pink today. I don't usually wear pink, it's not my color, but I am wearing it today. You can see that this has some like neon shades, but also grungy shades. So like a neon yellow, this sort of, I think this is like a peachy pink iridescent sort of topper shimmer, a really, really metallic pink, which is really interesting, like a bright Barbie pink. Then I think this quad is a little bit more smoky and subdued. It's got a cool tone brown. It's got this sort of gray green with a bit of pink to it. This metallic silver. It's really, really, really metallic looking. This dark green, which is gorgeous. Oh, that's how I like to inject color into my looks. It's like a smoky, beautiful, dark blue, purple, green. And this one, beautiful. It's like almost like a British racing green, a little bit darker. Then this one is same kind of vibe, but a little bit more rich. You've got what looks like blue shimmer. In my angle, it's purple. So this is a beautiful duochrome or multi-chrome. You can see it in the mirror there. So once you catch the mirror, it turns like a purpley pink color. So it's this really shifty color. Really nice navy. Love it. Beautiful sort of olive shade. Gorgeous. And a burgundy, a dark burgundy. So really interesting mix of colors. This admittedly is not a palette that I instinctively know how to use. I'm not a makeup artist. I just like makeup and I know what I like and I like what I like. I would mainly reach for this in combination with something a little bit more safe, just because, why am I getting eyeshadow all over my white sheets? What am I doing? I feel like this is going to be the sort of palette that some people are going to love, other people are going to be like, I don't know what to do with that. So I'm going to try to fumble my way through. All right, swatches time. Let's do it. So what I'm going to do is finger swatch these on my dry arm, no primer, no nothing. And what I think I might do is actually go down because I feel like these look like they're nice pairing. So start there, go like that. Oh, whoops. Oh, already this is like 80s, early 90s Barbie like dream eyeshadows. You can see that they pick up quite nicely. There's no crazy kick up in the pan. All right, let's start here. Okay, beautiful. It's like a topper shade. You probably can't see it too well. I'll try to capture it in different angles later, but I can see it being like this fiery sort of peachy color. On where you're looking, it's probably looking like a light pink, but it's this sort of multi-chrome topper. Then we've got this matte sort of neon yellow. I'm going to pick up a little bit. This one is, it's like it's got a firm layer to begin with, and then you sort of need to break that a little bit to build it up. Still looks a bit subtle, but I think it's one of those shades that you can build up. Same as this sort of pink. It feels a little bit dry. Oh, it's such a cool color. A little bit drier. I think these neon pigments tend to be a little bit drier, but I reckon with a nice sticky base, you can build it up to be a really bold shade if you wanted to. I might turn the brightness down a bit. There we go. That probably looks a little bit more accurate. These next metallic ones are crazy shiny. It's like they're foiled. It's intense. And there's a brown. All right, top shelf. This is amazing. That is what you're paying for. That pigment is not cheap. There's a lot of it in there. It's very pretty. I'll see if I can get a color shift going on in a different angle at the end, but it just, to me, looks like a really vibrant sort of dark magenta. It's very pretty. This silver, pretty as well. For some reason, I didn't swatch that middle bit. What happened there? Sort of gripped to my finger. But it's like this beautiful sort of foiled, gorgeous, metallic silver. It's still got a little bit left on my finger that I just won't come off for some reason. Very strange. Then we've got Play Hard, which compared to those looks boring as, but I think it's very much needed in a palette. It's a nice cool tone brown. Beautiful for like, even just like silver on the eye, blending it out. Love it. Good. Tick, tick. All right, dark green shade, gorgeous, love it. Could be built up. Let's try it again. This is really finely milled and soft. That is beautiful feeling. These feel a little bit drier in formula. These feel a lot softer, more finely milled. Look at this green color. Let's give that a go. This one's a little bit chunkier, but still really pretty. It's got this like yellowy, it's very unique. It's got this sort of like green base. On camera, it's looking a bit peachy pink. In my angle, it's looking very like lemon yellow. So it's got a bit of nuance going on there. And this purpley shade, whoa, oh, my kid's gonna be obsessed with that. On camera, it looks blue. I might build this up a little bit more. In my angle, it looks vibrant, vibrant, vibrant purple. Last three are all matte. We've got that olive green. Again, I'll build it up. Still feeling like I've got to sort of break the top layer to just sort of get in there a little bit more. So it builds up nicely. There we go. We've got this burgundy shade, very pretty. Build that one up a bit more. Yeah, intense, beautiful. Whoa, looks gorgeous on camera. And then this navy. Gorgeous. So really interesting mix. So yeah, I can imagine this being like a nightlife palette because you've got some really dark shades there. You've got some fun textures going on and you've got some neons, all of these things, you know, I can imagine on a night out. I do want to build up Happy Hour, which is that first one, because I feel like it's getting lost amongst all the other ones. Hopefully that makes it a little bit more obvious. But yeah, really looks like a bit of a random palette. I'm sure there's a lot of thought that went behind it, but from my opinion, it feels like there's interesting things going on. I don't quite understand the linking, but I think it's interesting. It's fun. It's a bit of a challenge. Okay, on my eyes, I've got some Urban Decay Primer Potion, but I put it on a while ago, so it's a little bit set, but I want to take on a fluffy brush just a little bit of the shade Play Hard, just to sort of set that crease a little bit more and make a little bit of a shadow. This is a really nice shadow color for me because I think a sort of cooler toned shade tends to look a little bit more natural on me, so I could totally just use this to define the eye and then off I go. I'm trying to pick up the shade On the Rocks with this sort of flat brush and I'm feeling like I'm struggling a little bit. It is one of those sort of wetter consistency eyeshadows that I feel like might benefit from a sticky base. Ignore my unwashed swatching fingers. Applied with a finger. Pretty. Oh, I love that sort of gorgeous. Okay. This is gorgeous when you apply it with a finger. It is a little bit moist and doesn't pick up really, really well on a brush, but that's fine. I think this effect is gorgeous, and all you need to do if you want to put it all over the lid is just put it on with your finger. Oh, I love that color. It's this sort of like retro greeny blue gray color with this twinkle of pink, which is gorgeous. Then I'm going to get my same fluffy brush as what I used in the crease, pick up a little bit more and just sort of use that to blend it out. That's, I find, the best way if you want to get a nice sort of diffused, intense look. Because if you just use your finger, you get like, you can't get that sort of blend going on. But if you pick up a little bit on a fluffy brush, you can just blend the edges a little bit. So I'm going to go in with Cocktails, which is that sort of olive green shade, which I get it, like olive in the cocktails, I get it. Running that on the lower lash line. I really like that color. Again, it's like a muted green, but it's really, in my opinion, sort of everyday wearable with a nice sort of just nude or a bronze or a gold. I'm going back in with a fluffy brush and I'm just diffusing that color. Oh, I love it. That top color with that olive green. This color is beautiful. Oh my God, I love this color combo. I would never have thought about this color combo being like something that I really dig, but I do. I was thinking of mixing this with neon, but I'm actually tempted to use that silver. So I've picked up a little bit. Again, this is sort of like a firmer formula. I'm trying to be really gentle so I don't break, like I don't gouge into it too much. Even picking up a little bit at a time, you can see that this adds this beautiful sort of silvery metallic twinkle. So I think this is the kind of shade that if you blend it out, it's going to look like a twinkly, like, yeah, twinkly light sort of effect. I've just wiped off that same brush and I've got a little bit of Showbiz and I'm just going to use that to deepen. Oh, it's a gorgeous color. Just deepen the lash line on the lower lashes because I'm doing something different on the top. This is really pigmented and really pretty. I'm just going to blend that out. Adds like a beautiful depth. So you can see it adds a smokiness, but it's not black. I love it. So I'm actually going in with Neon Lights on a liner brush. I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm just going to, got a little bit of fallout, but nothing too major. I'm just going to add a little bit, like a bit of a wing of neon pink. That is a drier formula, so again, there's a little bit of fallout and it does require a little bit of building, but it's giving me the effect that I'm after, which is just a little pop of neon just in the corner. All right, that's it for the eyeshadow because I'm going to the doctors and getting a flu vaccination soon, and there's no, I don't want to go too full on, but I love how they've paired. I want to put some eyeliner on, mainly on the waterline, probably not on the top lash line because I don't want to take away from the pink, and then I'm just going to put a bit more mascara and I'll be back. Okay, I just used some dark olive eyeliner on my waterline and tight line, so I didn't take it on the lid, it just sort of defined the eyes and took away that sort of fleshy line. So that's from LH Cosmetics and it's whatever that one is, I can't read it backwards, Vega Flash. And then a bit of mascara, so this is by Ilia, it's just a little mini sample, and that's it. I think this is really pretty. I think this is really sort of interesting, but like, I don't want to say wearable because anything is wearable if you want to wear it. But for me, I wouldn't feel too out of place wearing this in my everyday life, even with a little bit of the neon pop. I think it's a really fun way to incorporate a bit of color, and I thought it just works well. Hang on, I'll zoom out. It just works well because it's like a shade that suits me, like the greens. I really like the greens, but it's got a little like pop, which is sort of matching my top. I never wear pink. I bought this to match my son who likes pink, and I just think that's really, I like it. I think it's really pretty. All right, I'm back with look number 2 and I have gone pretty bold right now. I just thought, look, I'm filming, so I've got an excuse to wear something bright and vibrant and dark at the same time. And so what I use today, just on top of normal primer, so Urban Decay Primer Potion is what I'm trying to use up in my project pan, so that's what I put on. The main difference from today and yesterday was I let that primer set because I was sort of setting up to film and do all that kind of stuff, and it took like it was on for about half an hour before I applied the eyeshadow, whereas this time around I applied it onto the tacky eyeshadow base and it stuck a lot better. So this one I didn't need to use my finger to apply it. I just used a sort of flat brush, easy to do, really beautiful. It's not super opaque. There are times where I sort of catch that it looks a little bit translucent on the eye. It's almost got a purple sort of base to it that's a little bit sheer, and then it's got this really intense blue to purple shifting multi-chrome. So yeah, I think it's really pretty. I didn't have to build it up much, and what I did to finish it off was I pretty much put Play Hard. I blended it out with Play Hard, so that's that light brown transition sort of color. I put that on the lower lash line as well, and then I intensified the outer corner with this color here. I originally was going to do the navy. I thought the navy is how this is sort of probably supposed to be paired, but I actually really like the little bit of reddy warmth that this gives because it actually intensifies the purple rather than the blue. But of course you could use the blue in a similar way to intensify the blue tones of that multi-chrome. So I'll zoom in and show it to you. There you go. So very pretty. You can see just the hints of that sort of berry tone that I put in there mainly. If I put the blue, that would be looking a lot more cool toned, but it's a little bit warmer. And yeah, everything applied really nicely. And I'll try to insert the color shift because in certain lights this looks blue, in other lights it looks like pinky purple, which is really pretty, but I'll try to have that on the screen. Look number 3, and I've gone for some colors that I normally wouldn't go for, to be honest. The navy I definitely would use to cool down a look. Often I like pairing like a navy or a dark teal with maybe like a warm bronze or something. I think it works really pretty. But silver is not my color. It sort of doesn't work with my coloring. But I essentially put the navy blue, which is Nightlife, in the outer corner of my top lid. I blended it out with the brown, Play Hard, and then on the lower lash line I put the neon yellow, which is Moonlight. So I started with all the mattes and then I just sort of layered the silver. I wanted to see how the silver applies over a base, but then also over a set base, like with a dark matte, to make like a twinkly sort of effect. So it's a bit more of a like a shiny glitter on top of the blue, which I think is pretty. I found that because my primer had already set by the time I did all the mattes, I had to put in glitter glue to make the silver really look intense. It did stick to the set primer, so you can get a nice sort of twinkly silver look, but to make it a lot more intense and sort of more of a metallic-y sort of silver effect, something sticky like a glitter glue works best. All right, so that's a look. I really like how the neon and the navy work together. I like how the silver and the navy work together. I like how the silver and the neon work together. I think they work really well. Like some of the colors in here look strange, like a strange pairing, but I think once you put these like pops of neon on the eye, they do complement the other shades quite nicely. All right, this is a crazy difference. I've just taken the Nearly Natural palette because it's my fave, and I've just taken the shade Second Skin, which is this one down here, and I just put a little bit over the silver, blended it out. I just sort of dusted it on. It's leaning a little bit cool tone because it's mixing with the blues and the silvers. I also ran a little bit under here just to tone down the yellow. I have some of the elements of the bright color, like, hang on, like the elements, you can see a bit of a yellow, you can see a bit of the blue, but it's a little bit more wearable for me and it suits me a lot better. This is where I talk about how you have to sort of know what colors work with your coloring. This looks quite jarring on me, like it's intense and it's a bold look, cool, but this just looks like it's a bit more cohesive. It also shows how you can mix these colors with sort of colors that you're a bit more comfortable with, just to add a little bit of an accent color, and it does work really nicely. Like I would have no problem building up the blue a little bit more. I think that blue and bronze is beautiful, but there we go. All right, we're back today with the last look, and I decided to use all the pinks. I will zoom in because I think from this distance it just looks like a bit of a mishmash of pink. But realistically what I wanted to do was use this sort of peachy shade, which does have it's actually more pink front on. It sort of catches a light and it looks pink, and then the sides sort of look a bit peachy to sort of slight light yellow, lemony yellow. I wanted to do a whole look with this and maybe make it a little bit more sort of nude, so pair it with the brown, but I've run out of time. I've got a baby that's sick, I've got a kid's birthday this weekend, and I want this up before it launches, which is also this weekend. So I was also going to do like a vibrant pink look using those two, but I had to sort of mix the two looks together to use all shades. So yeah, I'm using those 3 shades today. I did actually do a little video on my phone just using this shade, just putting it over the basic primer, so you can see how it looks on its own. So if you did want to use it as like a one and done, very a sort of sheer light multi-chrome daily eyeshadow, you definitely can. So that one is all over the lid, and then what I added to it was I added this beautiful sort of metallic pink. Now this does have like a smoky base to it, so it's a really highly foiled metallic shimmer, and then it does have a bit of a smoky sort of base to it. So if you look at it away from the light, you can see that it looks sort of grey or maybe purple. So it is a slightly darker eyeshadow. It looks very foiled and really metallic, but if you do sort of blend it out a little bit, it does have a dark base to it. For now, I'm just going to show you the look, but I will talk about the formula of this in the conclusion. It is very similar to the silver. And then I put a little bit of the neon pink in the inner corner just for a pop of pink. All right, so it's got the three sort of pinky shades, that nude sort of sheer peachy pink. You can see how foiled and metallic that pink color is. It's gorgeous. I did have issues picking it up, but again, I'll talk about that later. What I sort of did was I used an angle brush originally to try to apply it and create the shape. I actually found it was easier to pick it up with like a softer brush. So I blended it on the lower lash line with a softer brush, and I went over the top with a softer brush just to sort of diffuse it. And then I picked it up with a little bit of water on my brush, and it did apply really nicely. So this can actually look, I'm not sure, I'll turn the brightness down, but I'm not sure if you can capture it, but it actually looks like, it's almost like gold foil. Like, you know, it looks like you've got foil and you've placed it on your eye because it's so shiny. And if you apply it really nice and smooth, which I've rushed it today because I've got limited time, but it can look really, really smooth and impactful and really beautiful. And then you can see the bright neon. I think with the lighting, like in the shadow, you can see it a lot better on that eye, but just sort of, I didn't pack it on, I just put it on and sort of buffed it out a little bit for a bit of bright pink. So that's my last look. It's, yeah, I would have liked to have broken it down into two and really emphasized the pink and gone something really nude, but you can see how they both sort of work, and they all work nicely together. So what do I think about this new palette that's launching on the 30th if you're in Australia and New Zealand, and on the late 29th if you're in the rest of the world? I have to say I like it more than I thought I would. I, in general, really like Glaminatrix formula. I come back to it time and time again. If I want something really impactful on the eye and my eyes to be the statement, I love using Glaminatrix palettes. I think they formulate their eyeshadows really nicely. But I have to say this color story originally scared me a little bit. It's not my color story. It's either very, very, very bright or very, very dark. And I don't really use either in terms of eyes. I wear brights and darks on my lips, but not so much on my eyes unless I'm going out somewhere special and I want to like look really bold, which is not often. So this normally isn't a palette that screams my name, but I was pleasantly surprised at how wearable a lot of these shades are. I probably wouldn't use them all in conjunction with each other. You definitely can, and I enjoyed doing it, and I could have extended this out to 8 looks if I wanted to, because I think the pairings are really nice and you can just sort of pick different colors. And I think because they all have that sort of, besides the neons, which work as a cool contrast to the darker colors, they take away the neons. They all have a bit of like a muted nature to them. It's like a muted green, a muted sort of avocado green, muted burgundy. There's a sort of bright elements, but quite muted as well. So I think since they're all in the sort of same color tone, I don't know if that's the right term, but they work really nicely together, and the pops of neon just like add a fun contrast. I would definitely say this is a going out palette. So Into the Night is where I would go with this. If you want silver on your eyes with navy blue, or you want to go somewhere fun and put a pop of neon with a bit of sparkly something, like this is definitely that palette. I understand that it sort of goes, I don't want to say, goes from like a rave to like sultry evening sort of wine bar. Like there's a lot of things here that I get that's an evening palette. I think it's a very unique palette. I do think it's a little bit advanced. What I mean by that is like my fave, for example, the Nearly Natural palette, which looks like that, is something that I think anyone from beginner to quite advanced or pro could pick up and use and put together fairly easily. This one, I think you have to be a color lover, a smoky eyeshadow lover, a grungy eyeshadow lover, confident working with different textures and knowing how to apply them in different ways to get the best result. I think this is something that a lot of people, if they got, they'd be like, I don't know what to do with this. I think, again, it's unique. I'm going to applaud Glaminatrix Cosmetics for making something that is very unique. It also pairs really nicely with other palettes in their collection. So I know that whenever they release a new palette, it is a palette that they design to add. You can see my kid's been in all of these because of the finger marks. He likes to swatch things and he likes this one particularly because it's got purples. So they don't overlap colours, and they make them so they sort of can work in conjunction. So if you've bought a few of their palettes, you can work them all together, which I like that concept of. So yeah, I would say this is a enthusiast palette to get the most out of it. I don't think it's as approachable as some of the other palettes in their range, but that's fine. I don't think every palette should be for everyone, but it wouldn't surprise me if this wasn't their most popular palette, just because it is such a unique pairing, which again is refreshing, but also challenging. I'd say it's challenging. In terms of the formula, I like the formula. I like how they all look on the eye. The mattes perform really nicely. They're not too soft and powdery. They don't rain down your face. They're pigmented enough that they're pigmented enough that they show up really nicely on the eye, but you can apply them softly and blend, or you can build them up to get more intensity. So they're quite a nice matte formula. I've always thought their matte formulas quite nice. The shimmers do vary a lot. So for example, this one, Bustling, they apply more like your traditional quite pigmented shimmer. They pick up nicely on a brush. You don't need any proper technique or any specific technique to pick them up. They pick up nicely, and then they apply nicely on the eye. When it comes to this shade and that shade, these are different. They almost feel like they're pressed, they're flaky, like flaky layers of foil. Not quite, like they're not actual layers of foil, but I think the pigment to them, or the shimmer in them, sits kind of in layers. And when you do pick it up with a firm brush, like an angle brush, which I was trying to use as my liner today, you have to be very careful not to gouge into the pan. If you try to pick these up with a, like softly, gently, they barely transfer onto a firmer brush. I feel like you've got a better chance of picking them up with a slightly fluffier brush. But with a firmer brush, if you try to pick them up, they just don't really transfer onto the brush. And then when you try to dig a little bit harder, it can actually pick up the product and sort of create these sort of flaky layers that come up. So hopefully there's a video on the screen where you can see it in action. So hopefully I'm not confusing people, but I think there is a technique to picking these up, and there's also a little bit of sort of care that you have to use. Like I wouldn't let my toddler just gouge his finger in this, because these will go everywhere. The good thing about this formula is you can press it back down. So if it does start to lift, you can press it back down and it's good as new. But it is a beautiful effect, and a beautiful foiled effect you get on the eye. So I think it's worth the effort, but you can't just go in there really like rough and expect it to pick up really easily and not cause a mess. You have to be a little bit more gentle with those two shades. So again, this is not a beginner's palette. This requires some careful exploration to pick these up properly and apply them on the eye properly. The two matte neons are also a different formula to the rest of the mattes. They're just a little bit drier, and I know that that's just because of the neon pigment. Neon pigments always are a little bit chalkier, so they will be a little bit more dustier on the eye, so they probably benefit more from a stickier base and building up a little bit more, and not too much sweeping, because they can sort of dust away a little bit more just because of the dryness of the formula. So yeah, I think this is a fun palette. If you love Glaminatrix and you want to add another one to your collection, you've got one. Or if this is just your color story and you're like, I can see myself wearing this to after work drinks on Friday, or going out dancing on Saturday night, or whatever it happens to be, or a grungy brunch on Sunday. If this is your kind of jam, like you love these deep, rich and beautiful sort of interesting finishes and neon, this is something that I would recommend, but it does take a little bit of a learning curve to figure out how to apply some of these shades the best way. But once you play around a little bit, you'll get it, and the effect is really beautiful. All these shades look really beautiful on the eye. I would say that my favorite look was the sort of greeny color. I love this sort of multi-chrome green, which has a little bit of pink and has a little bit of what looks like yellow, and it's like gray, blue, green. Like I think that's a beautiful shade. I would reach for this palette to create a look with that like tea section there. Like I would do that any day of the week. So there are elements of this that I can see myself wearing daily, but the rest I think I'll reserve for like really sort of bold looks. Also, if you do have a nude palette like this and this is your sort of everyday and you're used to wearing this a lot, this kind of palette can add a smokiness and an evening sort of vibe to that. So they would work well from taking it day to sort of fun night. So yeah, it might not be something that you have to look at and go, will I wear this exclusively on the eye? You might just go, well, occasionally I want a neon, occasionally I want a multi-chrome, occasionally I want a like a really foiled silver, and you can just add it to a palette that you're more comfortable with. And that's how I honestly would use this palette. All right, so that's my 4-look review. This palette does launch this weekend. So if you want to check it out or you want to check out the other palettes, I'll have the Glaminatrix website linked down below and any information that I can find. A big thank you to Glaminatrix for again sending me this to review. I love reviewing your palettes. There's always something fresh and new about them. Even if it's not my color story, I can sort of appreciate the inspiration behind it and the quality. I just feel like the quality is, if you want it like a statement eye, like this is where I reach these days for my statement eye. It's just beautiful. So all right, so that's it for today. I'll be in the comments answering any questions or chatting about whatever you want. Let me know what you think of this palette. Is it something that you're like, I want to add this to my collection, it's really unique? Do you think it's maybe a bit out of your comfort zone, a bit challenging? Or are you like, man, I want that burgundy and that silver and I'm going to wear it to the next time I go out for wine with my friends? That would actually be a nice combination. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.